Hi, this is Professor Jacob. This video will cover the 5 Excel Chapter 3 tasks that were giving students problems or headaches. We will reiterate these tasks as they each appeared in Excel Chapter 3 lesson. All right, so we're going to start with the payment function. So in our project file, Excel 3-6, fix it. Of course, we first get the protected view and enable editing. That's in your first couple of steps here. We want to open the file, enable the editing. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Enable editing allows us to work in the worksheet and make changes. All right. So instead of starting and going through this entire list, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the bottom. Okay, so 6F. Add a formula to cell B12 to calculate the monthly loan payment based on information in cells B9 through B11. So that's a cell range B9 through B11. Then use a negative number for the PV or present value argument. All right, so I'm going to go to the summary worksheet. So what's needed here so that you can understand the PMT function is annual percentage rate, APR, annual percentage rate or APR. The annual percentage rate is the rate that you are charged in interest, or you will charge an interest on an annual basis. So if the term of the loan, whether you are borrowing or lending, the term of the loan is 12 months or 72 months, it doesn't matter. It just means that for the life of the loan, the annual percentage rate is set at a certain percentage. So it's per annum. All right. So the next thing on the list there is in per. In per. The in per is the number of payments. Number of payments over the life of the loan. All right. The number of payments over the life of the loan. Then the PV or present value is the present value of the loan. How much you owe or the loan principal. Okay, what you start with. Okay, so what we need to do, as the instructions sort of allude to, here, add a formula to cell B12. So we're going to go into cell B12. And of course, the payment function is already built in, the formula. So we just start with PMT, open parentheses, and we get to see rate, in per, and PV. All right. So our rate has already really been defined for us. It came on the worksheet. So our rate, again, is the APR, and it is per annum, meaning there are 12 months in a year. So we divide that number by 12, okay, because interest accrues over an annual period versus a monthly period. All right, then we separate the next argument in the function by comma, and in per is the number of months to pay, okay, or the number of payments. All right, separate the next argument with a comma, and then the present value. The present value is basically how much do you owe now, or how much do you need to borrow? All right. It's basically the loan principal. So what we need to do is we need to find the loan principal. Now, seemingly on this worksheet, the only thing that is a dollar amount is in the cash available for the event. Okay. But if you look down, we have some open spaces. One's asking a question. And so we're guessing that that will be yes or no. And then the next one says amount to borrow. So technically, that area, that cell would represent what we're looking to borrow, what the loan principal is. All right. So, and then in the instructions, it said use a negative number for the PV argument. Now, in college, you should be able to transfer your knowledge, what you've learned from a math class, such as algebra. All right. We know that in algebra, that a negative and a negative is equal to a positive, right? So your present value, if we were just to leave this as it is, the present value would show up with parentheses around the number. And that is because, we're trying to figure out something that really hasn't happened yet. Okay. So it's going to show up as a negative number. So if we put a negative in front of the B9, it would make it a positive. So using the minus sign on our keyboard, and then striking the enter key on our keyboard or the enter check mark on the formula toolbar. All right. So we pretty much have that set up. Now, it's still reading 0, and that's because we didn't start at the top of the worksheet filling up all of the blanks. All right. Now, this amount to borrow basically is covered in 6E, where we're adding a formula to cell B9 that calculates the amount to borrow, all right, which directly relates to the formula we just put into B12. All right, so we're going to do that as well. Now, if you read that entire paragraph, it says add a formula to cell B9 to calculate the amount to borrow, and they actually give you what cells and in what sheet you're doing that, minus the cash available. Now, the cash available is on our summary sheet, okay? So if the value in cell B8 is yes, if the value in cell B8 is not yes or no, the cell should display a 0. All right, so from here, we know that this is an if statement that we have to put into cell B9. All right, so we're going to go to B9, and we're going to do an if function, okay? So if, open parentheses, if cell B8 is equal to yes, which is a text string, then what do we want to do? We want to add something. So we're going to look at the total cost with tax on the shopping list sheet. So go to the shopping list sheet while we're in edit mode or point mode now, because we're going to point to a cell or a reference of cells in our formula. All right. So it says total cost with tax on the shopping list sheet. So total cost with tax plus the total cost for purchasing and mailing invitations on the guest list sheet. So we're going to go to the guest list sheet, and the total cost for purchasing, there we have it. All right. And then we want to do minus the cash available. And so the cash available is on our summary sheet. So it's going to automatically put summary there because we're in point mode. We see there on our status bar that it's not ready, it's not edit, it's point mode because we're pointing our mouse pointer to solve or to add a formula. All right. So we need cash available for the event. And so we've got, if that's not yes, then it is 0. All right. So we end the formula. All right. So just to see what happens here, if we type in yes, things are going to change on our worksheet. Okay, this is the number that's being pulled. Okay, now this is a fictitious number. Of course, no one would actually do a loan like this, but just to show you that it is working. If it's no, what's going to happen? It's 0. So that if statement is actually working. Okay, so throughout your instructions, okay, above 6E and F, you're going to do all of these things. You're going to change things so that that number actually comes into focus better. All right. But if it never does, at least you got the formula correct here. All right. Now, let's go to our little list here, and we're going to strike through there and referencing data on another worksheet. We've done that, right? And you may be like, well, no, we didn't do that. Yes, we did. In that last formula, we just did reference data on other worksheets in our workbook. Remember the shopping list in this formula here? We referred to shopping list, the G5 cell in shopping list, and the F6 cell in the guest list. So that is referencing data on other worksheets. All right, so easy. Displaying and printing formulas, that's pretty easy. So let's say that we wanted to see what all these formulas were. Of course, there are several different ways that you can see formulas, individual formulas. You could use the F2 key on your keyboard to go into edit mode for a cell. Okay. Of course, you can always look on the formula bar that shows you the formula. But what the instructions are asking you to do in this project is it's asking you to be able to see the formulas on the worksheet and print the formulas. Of course, you don't need to print the formulas for Professor Jacob for this project, but just giving you sort of a heads up. Okay, we make sure that it's asking you to do that. Well, doesn't matter. We just want to cover it. Okay, so there's a couple different ways you can do it. Of course, using our formula tab to get into our formula ribbon, and in the formula auditing group, we're going to select show formulas. Now, once we roll our mouse pointer over that button, we get to see a tooltip. Okay, and the tooltip basically shows you the keyboard shortcut. Okay, so control plus what we used to call when I first started typing is the schwa key. So the schwa key is located immediately beneath the escape key, or to the left of the number 1 key, or to the up, immediately up from the tab key on your keyboard. All right, so control, hold it down, and then the schwa shows you the formulas version of your worksheet. If you strike that key combination again, it takes you back to the displayed version of your worksheet. Okay, so of course, and then you would follow the normal, printing of the worksheet to print those formulas. All right, so we have another one that we've kind of knocked out fairly quickly. Then error checking. Error checking is pretty easy as well, located very close to the show formulas in the formula auditing group. Okay, now the reason that it's having you to do this, and I'll show you here, it's having you to do this because of this sheet, the shopping list sheet, AVG, you can see that it's not computing. So I'm going to show you why it's not computing. It doesn't understand what AVG means. Okay? So you have to spell it out. And there it comes on our function autocomplete list. And then it's working. So your error checking here is basically going to figure that out. So let's go through the error checking. Let's select the entire sheet first, and then error checking. And then we want to show the calculation steps. See, it says the next evaluation will result in an error. So yeah, we don't want to go into options. Okay, so let's go into the edit, and we're going to actually go into the formula bar and change that as I did before, but I didn't go through it using the error checking. Resume. All right, the next one is maximum. And the reason it's not working is Excel understands max, M-A-X, or minimum for the lowest value, maximum for the highest, or max for the highest value. All right, so we're going to edit it just to get rid of the IMUM. And there it comes up on our autocomplete list. Okay, resume. Same with the minimum. We're going to get rid of the IMUM. Okay, now this one can be a doozy, but how you kind of think about this. Right now, the reason that this is an error is because places to shop has not been defined yet. Okay, so that is the problem area. So what needs to take place is this needs to be defined first. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to get out of the evaluation mode. All right, and that's in all these cells. I think it's like 50 some cells. So we're just going to close out of error checking for right now. So we're going to go to places to shop, which is the next sheet over. And so here, what we need that previous sheet to do, the shopping list sheet, we need it to look up these stores and give us the city in this column, in column A. All right. So in order to do that, we have to define the places to shop range. All right. So we need to tell Excel this group of cells contains our named range. So we would go in, we would select the cells first and define name. And then where it says BevMo, we're just going to back it up and do places to shop. I think it's underscore. Places underscore to underscore shop. So click OK. And so now we've defined this area. All right. So the formula, and as soon as we did that, it updated the list of cities. Okay, so that was really the fix that needed to happen. So we can go back into the error checking. Let's select the whole thing. Error checking. Okay, now it's complete. So we've solved one more thing on our list. We're going to strike through that. All right. And then formatting text using functions. Now, this has thrown some students for a loop. And so I'm not sure why, but we're going to make sure that we settle it. All right. So on the guest list sheet, we have the title that these people want to go by, their first name, their last name, what we want their name tag to say. I guess there's going to be some type of conference or someone's going to be attending an event. Okay, and so their information has been captured here on this worksheet. So sometimes on online forms, the first name and the last name come in separate fields. Okay, so in order to combine those, Excel has functions that can combine text, that can change how the text looks or the format of the text. And so here you're being asked in this project to, in 3A, in the name tag column, you're going to modify the formula that's in there now to display the guest name in this format. It's all capital letters. Okay? And it says there are multiple errors in this formula. Fix the formula in cell D10 and then copy it to the other cells in the column. Okay? And so what you're going to do is you're going to go through all this list from B, 3B, on to, looks like 5D, or no, 6D, and you're going to be adding things to this workbook. But for this particular thing here, this is sort of quickly fixable, or something that you can handle right away. So this is in your Excel Chapter 3 SimPath, okay? And it is labeled Formatting Text Functions. Functions can do more than perform calculations. So Excel includes a special group of functions that modify text. These text functions are useful for ensuring that text data have a consistent appearance. In functions, text is referred to as a string or text string. Now, commonly used text functions are proper, which is already there in cell D10, proper, and then you see concat. The concat is what actually combines the text, all right? So what we're going to do, we're going to get rid of proper really quickly, and we're going to keep the concat there, all right? So we're going to do an open parentheses. I'm just going to get rid of this as well, okay? Just so we can see it in our function autocomplete list, concatenates a list or range of text strings. So we're looking to concatenate or combine cells B10 and C10. All right, and then C10. Now, it's not appearing as we want it to appear because we need it in all capital letters and we need a space in between the first and the last names. All right, so we're going to close that. And so then here, instead of the proper only converts the text string to proper case, which the first letter in each word, if each word appears in one cell, is capitalized. But if the words appear in separate cells, it's only going to capitalize that first cell's word. Okay, so then we have the lower, which converts the text string to all lowercase letters. And then we have upper, upper, upper. And so upper converts the text string to all uppercase letters. So we're going to type in upper, upper, and you see that it comes on our function autocomplete list and says converts a text string to all uppercase letters. Now, when you're using multiple functions, of course, you have to separate those with a parentheses. There's no way around that. You have to separate it. And because there's two open parentheses, there has to be two closed parentheses as well. All right. Now, what's missing here is the space in between, because right now, if we were to leave this as is, Cindy Jacobs would appear in the name tag area for D10, but there would not be any space in between. So I'm going to hit enter here so you can see what I'm talking about. And you see how in between Cindy and Jacobs, there's no separation of space. Okay, so to create space, you want to let your space take up one of your text strings, all right, or your text arguments. So to do that space, you would use the open quotation marks, use the space bar, close quotation marks, and then a comma, one comma, all right? So then this is one text string by itself with just a space, and this is one text string, and this is one text string in the concat function, all right? So use the enter or the enter button on the formula bar. Well, what happened? I think I put it in the second one. Yes, I did. Okay, so I need to go back to D10, or I could, since I put it in this one by mistake, I could use the fill handle and copy it upward, and it would fix it. Now, the only problem was I didn't change the upper. Okay, so go back and change the upper. Okay, so that'll do it. And so it appears correctly. And so from here, I would be able to use the fill handle and go all the way down to 67, D67. And then all of those names now are all capital letters and all have a space in between the first and the last name. Okay? And so that pretty much handles that particular reiteration of that task. Okay? So we've completed 5 different tasks to help you out with this particular worksheet or this particular project. Alrighty. So hopefully this helps you and helps you complete your project Excel 3-6. Excel 4-6 project is not as complex, but again, really read carefully through the instructions, all right, a couple of times before attempting the task.